My name is Jonathan Parks, and welcome to Jonathan's Nature Crafts. In the previous video, I showed you all the little pieces to which I'm making this little pillow out of the Impala fur with the denim on the back, and I've already started a little bit of the sewing and stitching here, and kind of got a little bit ahead of myself and forgot to really start the video as I was getting started on it. So I'm gonna kind of show you all a little bit something we do here, and I'll tell you, I've already kind of demonstrated in a past video a little bit about how we thread the needles, but from what you are really seeing here, there's like two sides to a string, and on each side of the string there is a needle, and we just kind of stitch through these little ways and just make it so it's going to be the fine little piece that it's going to be. And coming down to this, we just kind of sew through these little holes, and you can kind of see how when we punch one needle through the hole on the back of the fur pelt, there comes a time when we take this other needle and go to about the place where it comes out on the denim, and that is where we put the needle through the hole for the other side. And with what it's coming down to in this little place, I see that there's kind of like what we're coming down to with a little stitching, and sometimes, just sometimes, I think things just don't turn out the best way they could, because there gets to be times when, like I said, this leather was pretty tough when I bought it. So sometimes even from the other side it can be hard to get it through the hole. But as we go on, I might kind of move this down a little bit to try to let you all see from a better angle the little bit of depth I'm putting into a little piece, just to kind of show how a little work might come right in. And so getting the little thread right in, I say, putting little works down in the little place to kind of get along to just an old little pillow that comes to be made out of a lot of fur. And and I say just kind of put it right in and take the needle down and get it in the next little freaking place. Is just kind of one of those things I like to say, and speaking of that, I could tell you all about just what it was like in that little picture I showed you in that book in the last video, the intro to the series. It kind of was just kind of happening there that, the little Impala was trying to escape the lioness, but kind of missed its place. And so, I think of a time when, in school, they used to like show us these little pictures that we had to put into chronological order, where they ask us what happened first, what happened next. Was suggesting to my mom that, like, in the school system, when they work with the kids, that they kind of use a set of pictures like that. And I mean, I was probably only a teenager at the time when I suggested it. I was a senior in high school at the time, and she said, oh, but those pictures, she said, they're likely to frighten the little kids, you know. So I say, just some of these things, you know, how it was and how it goes. Kind of like the way she even used to tell me as a kid, you know. I'd say when I kind of got to be in high school, I started to watch these videos that came out when I was in the 5th grade, these National Geographic Predators of the Wild videos. And I mean, I kind of gave my VHS tapes to Goodwill, but the good thing is that there's a lot of that stuff you can still get on a certain YouTube channel called Forgotten Documentaries. That's a good little channel to kind of find those on. And I say with just a little work, you can kind of do things in. Sometimes I tell you all, the needle will get caught up in the leather. The knot that is in the thread can get caught up in the dadgum leather as well. So try to get things in the little dadgum shape they need to be in to try to take it to a good little level for sure. And, you know, sometimes it can be hard to see exactly what you're doing in a case, but I mean, you know, there's some of us who probably always loved to study about animals since we were kids. And fur, you know, the way you can get fur on Etsy these days, it's something I've always wanted as a kid. I always wanted little real animal furs. I'd put them on my Christmas and birthday list, and sometimes I'd siblings and cousins ask me, like, why do you want an animal fur? They had to kill some animal to get it. And I say, well, I didn't know what to say back then, but if anybody asks me that now, as far as why I do that, I say, well, if you think you have room to talk, why don't you go vegan? Something like that. I'm like, I'm not vegan either. I say, if you think it's a big deal that I buy a piece of animal fur, then because of what they had to do to get it, then we might as well all go vegan. Or you might as well suggest that. It's kind of how I go about things. So with this little thought in mind, kind of working down to the little point where we get a little bit of some extra sewing and stitching coming right into place, you know. And for one thing, there's probably been some video series I've done where I've kind of showed a few little things I made from pelts, and some of them I'm making to these stuffed animals that kind of I can just snuggle up to, and they help me sleep at night. Sometimes a pelt can kind of keep you warm in bed, just like an animal itself can. And even those little kudu pillows that I made with little denim on the backs, sometimes I'll lay them in the bed, and when I'm laying down, I kind of put my hand up to the fur of the pillow, and sometimes, just sometimes, when you're touching the fur of the pillow, it's almost like you're touching the animal's spirit. It's kind of one way I feel about it. And everything is kind of down on its focus for a good reason. And of all things I find out, I say that there's probably those who I've told them about taxidermy before and how I collect it, and sometimes, just sometimes, some people, they even had to ask me what it is. Not everybody knows what everything is, and somebody told them that they wanted to see something of it, they should go into the boot store. I live in Lexington, Kentucky, but the boot store is in Nicholasville, Kentucky, which is just like one little town over from here, and right there on the highway where it turns from Nicholasville Road into Lexington Road, right there on what's called Lexington Road there, they have that little place called the Boot Store. And I used to go there and buy pairs of boots and buy fancy cowboy shirts and things like that that I used to love to wear. But, you know, I tell you, as I grow older, I just get to the point where I just kind of run out of places to wear that stuff. And sometimes I think that even these days, you know, that stuff kind of gets to where it's not quite as popular as it was. I mean, these days, you know, you just see country singers wearing their cowboy hats with t-shirts, you know. And I can tell you a story from when I was a kid about a time when I went into that store, and I was 13 at the time. On my 13th birthday, I was getting a cowboy hat as a present, and when I got it, it kind of turned out to be probably maybe a little too small for me, so we had to trade it back for another one. We couldn't get it to fit exactly the size of my head, so we kind of, like, I'd say, just took that back. And I mean, they kind of just put a little foam in the inside of it to make it fit my head. But as I got much older and my head got bigger, it kind of got to the point where it was just little, the foam kind of made it a little too small to fit. So at that point, I could finally take the piece of foam out of the inside of the cap and wear it. And one day, I'd say on that evening when we were in there shopping, the country star John Michael Montgomery, who was a newcomer at the time, like only had one album out, only had one video out, he was there to do his shopping. And there was a certain man who worked in there who did John Michael's hat. And while he was just in there kind of doing his shopping, we met him in there. We met him in there with his cap on backwards. And what you'd find interesting to believe is that that's how I got started wearing a backwards ball cap. You know, in his first video he ever did of that song, Life's a Dance, he was kind of wearing his little backwards ball cap while he was swinging on a rope, jumping into a river. And, you know, there was that girl actor in the video with him. It was all just a kind of a little interesting little thing we find out, because I tell you, all those singers, you know, all those performers, all the places they've been, like Montgomery Gentry, you know, and Keith Whitley and them, a lot of them, they started out in the Austin City Saloon, which is kind of here in Lexington. And a lot of that stuff, it hadn't always interested me all my life, and I kind of outgrew it as I got older. But, you know, I say there was just some of that stuff. Always just kind of watched it for my own enjoyment and learned so much about what the songs could have to say. Because here comes a time when we all just know that somebody's in the world just to share a little word or two. So, come to think of it, I think I'm going to kind of cut the strings off these needles and kind of get the knots out and kind of take them where we just need a little peace in this world, and happy we go, happy we'll be. So I say with one little thing after another, take another little bit of dadgum string and kind of put it through the eye of the needle. And it almost makes me think, you know, how there's a certain Bible verse about a camel going through the eye of a needle. It says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. So anything could have been said there, but it just so happened that, you know, that's probably not true in every case. But, you know, it kind of happens that that was just kind of a little spoken illustration that was given to the disciples that day with the old rich young ruler. and I kind of had a rap song written about that years ago. Shared it a little bit, but as you all can see, this time around I'm just threading the needle, getting it ready for the next sewing session. So it's time to end the video, and I hope you all do well and have a blessed rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.